all people have wisdom. They
Right.
know what to do. If any uh, Christian person take an interest in a 6-month-old baby, they know what to do to keep that child from going off on the wrong direction.
But wouldn't that be true, and to your point, all people?
You know, I'm gonna let you all pretty blacks worry about the rest of them. My mission from God is to get the black people of Mississippi
Yeah.
to do for themselves all that they can do to improve their lives. I mean, I'm not against anybody, but my mission from God
Yeah.
is to black people.
Got you. No, I hear you, and I hear you loud and strong. And for so many level on so many levels, I will agree. But again, there's the question of all people. Those who may not be Christian, those who are Christian, those who have opted out of religion completely, and those who are just good people by nature. You know, all people can learn these same principles that you're espousing here.
I don't know anybody in Mississippi that's not part of the Christian culture.
Oh, good. But what we're getting ready to do is break off this week and start again on part 2. And on part 2, we're going to explore the rest of his 5 bullet points that has been recommended by God and is being interpreted through the eyes of James Meredith. Part 2, Delta Renaissance with James Meredith, will be next week. So y'all tune in, and I do appreciate you, brother, for being here today, and thank you for tuning in. So I'll see you next week. You know why all them girls were so crazy about him when he was young? He's just a charm over here. You good? You need some water? Okay. We're opening up right now. Right on the set. Hey, how you doing? You been listening upstairs? Well, okay. Welcome to Delta Renaissance. I'm your host, Sade Turnipseed, and this is part 2 of my discussion with the world-renowned, the social advocate of the century, I would say, Mr. James Meredith. He is here in the studio with me today, and we're having a very, very lively, wonderful conversation, and it's beautiful the way that you're framing your argument, because it anchors in the truth of, as you know it, in God's message. And God's message for black people specifically, because we are, by all statistics, at the bottom of the barrel, and we kind of need not, just divine intervention as far as I'm concerned at this point. And so what you're espousing and what we talked about and left off with last week is your 5-point message for our time. The first we discussed was only the family of God can solve the problems of our time. Now, what we want to pick up on today is the point. The Bible says you should train up a child in a way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Talk to us about that.
And that means from birth all the way. Actually, what most people don't realize, God's children don't come by age. You can be 85 years old and still be a child if you don't know what you ought to know. Well, you have to
Yeah.
get me going again. I'm getting
Yeah.
old and forgetful.
Oh, you got it. I know you do. It's the whole process of training up a child. What we talked about last week.
Oh,
Remember, and that
right.
the point being is that your father started a school. You started school in the when you were 3. You know, and
Yeah, I'm glad you came back to that.
Right.
And I think this is about the best example I can give. Miss Polly Pierce lived up on the main road. We lived a half mile off the main gravel road. And later in life, I found out Miss Polly had a well down, where you have the well down, place where you can get water. And literally, for the 10 years that we walked past her house, she reported every time we got a drink of water from her well. But everything else that we did.
Right.
She reported.
Back to Mama knew.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they
were watching.
And we are going to have to get back to that. I mean, everybody talk about Big Mama, what she used to do. But what most people overlook, the reason Big Mama could come out with her switch and tan any 14, 15-year-old's hide, and he wouldn't do nothing but take it, was because the 25 to 55-year-old men, if anybody even talked back, they would take care of them.
Yeah.
Today, the 40-year-old is scared of the 13-year-old. So he not only won't protect grandmama, he's scared himself. Now, of course, this all has to change. Anytime a 15-year-old can dominate a 35-year-old, society is broken down. I mean, and we have to rebuild it. And only following the child, in order to train up a child, you have to know what's happening with that child every day. The only people who are in a position to know that are the old people who are in the vicinity of that child. Now, they don't have to see everything, or they don't have to see nothing. But if people know they're interested, I guarantee you they'll tell them. And we got away from that.
That is such a strong and very, very good example and point that you make about the protectors of the community, the protectors of Mama Nell, the protectors of women were the men.
Absolutely.
Who had and understood their role and their position in this village. That, they would keep the youngsters, particularly the young men, in line because that was their responsibility, that was their role. And it worked. And
it'll still work.
Yes.
Now, the one part, and most black women particularly don't like this, the only people now capable of rebuilding our male structure are middle-aged black women. They're the only ones who know everything that should be done and how it should be done, what a family should be. And they're the only ones that can teach that. I mean, so the most overburdened person in the world today are black women of childbearing age. And they are literally getting no help now from anybody. And that's going to have to change. And the church has a responsibility.
I agree. We're going to take a break in just a second here, but to that point, and you went to school in Africa, and you know the culture there, and you know the system, and that there were people who helped people. You know, no woman was expected to raise a child alone by herself. She wasn't expected to take care of all the house, all the kids, all the cooking, all of the labor that was involved in running a house. You know that system, and that is our way of doing it, is supporting one another and loving each other. But to your point, when you train a child in our way of doing it, they don't veer off, they don't change. But we did change, even though we were trained that way. And we need to take a break and come back and talk about that. What happened? Even though we were trained early on, we did not go in the accordance of the way that Grandmama knew and our ancestors taught us to go. So let's take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to explore that a little more deeply. All right, so we'll be right back with Mr. James Meredith. I know I'm coming out early, but kind of makes sense on the conversation. My mic. Is it boosted all the way up? You know, I'm a delicate woman, have a very sensual, sexy little voice. I can't holler. I'm so... I know. This is my first day back, y'all, and after 2.5 months, I've been on hiatus, finishing up my doctorate degree. So I've just been sitting down, reading my books, talking to myself. So now I got to figure out how to talk in camera again. Thank you.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back. We are here with Mr. James Meredith.
Now, you mentioned Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the biggest quote on there, prevention is better than cure. That is the African version of what the blacks used to say. You don't hear it much anymore. Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah.
But prevention is better than cure. Mm-hmm. Is even much better.
Because you're circumventing the problem in the first place. Right?
And that's where we have to go. Prevention. And the only way to train up a child so that he doesn't have the problem, it has to be a continuous thing, and it has to be the whole community.
That leads into point number 3, the African proverb that says, it takes a village to raise a child.
And it is even more applicable today in our urban setting. The biggest change that's occurred in my lifetime, when I was born, probably 80% of all blacks in America lived in the rural areas. Today, at least 98% live in urban areas. We still trying to live by the rules we knew when we lived in the country, where you had to walk 4 miles to get in trouble. We have not developed rules where all you got to do is knock on the wall and get in trouble. And we're going to have to address. That's why God not only ordered Moses to keep a written record on everybody, he ordered Moses to choose the right leaders. The right leaders can only be those people who are in the immediate village, the immediate community, the immediate neighborhood.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
I mean, they have to know everything that's happened, so they will know how to prevent trouble. and we just have so much to deal with now. And I have a problem doing a show like this because I promised God that I was going to stay away from all things negative, all things controversial, because, and I was only going to try to find out what would make our thing better, and simply say that and try to get people to do that.
But this is such a positive program. It's all about education and all about communicating the great messages that you have. So even though we're talking about negative points and negative things that has happened in the past, the positive side of this and the beauty of a show like this is that it allows you to make lemonade. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Okay.
Now, a mission from God.
Yes.
Now, the publishers always reserve the right to name the book. I was shocked when I saw that because for 79 years, I thought I was hiding, camouflaging my mission from God.
So the publishers came up with this name, not you.
That's right. But then when I thought about it, I realized ain't never been a day in my life, a recollectible day, that I didn't think I was on a mission from God.
Sure.
When I went to Ole Miss, I exactly thought I was on a mission from God. As a matter of fact, for 79 years, every time somebody thanked me, congratulated me for being so brave, standing up before them white folk, the first thing flicked in my mind for 50 years, it wasn't me, it was God. But I said, these people silly enough to give me the credit, I take the credit. I tried to take all of my credit, all of my mama's credit, most of my daddy's credit, and as much of God's credit as I could get away with, and thought I was fooling everybody. But the truth of the matter is, I have never not been on a mission from God. And I know that this mission is more important than the one everybody know about.
Wow. Yeah. I'm excited that you're here, and I'm happy that a mission from God is the name of this book.
Well, now I can tell you,
Because
the Mississippi Delta is the most important place in the black world.
why?
This is where every major decision about the black race
Yeah, you said that before, and I'm glad you were bringing that back
has
up.
been made
Yeah.
in the Mississippi Delta. I mean, and there's another thing that's important. People talk about all of the people that come out of the Delta, the great singers, the great athletes, the great, just about
Writers and-
everything.
Yeah.
That's because Mississippi is at the extremes. I mean, it has been the worst and the best. And that's why it is easier for Mississippi to move from the bottom, and everybody think, and in most cases it's true, Mississippi's at the bottom in everything. It is easier for Mississippi to move all the way to the top than it is to move up to the next step.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm confident.
Yeah, because it'll make a sizable difference.
Absolutely.
You'll feel every
And the
degree
whole
of
world
movement.
will follow.
I believe
Most people don't know it.
I believe that.
Chicago ain't nothing but Mississippi.
I believe North
Detroit
Mississippi, right?
ain't nothing but Mississippi.
St. Louis.
Los Angeles ain't nothing but Mississippi.
San
What
Francisco?
happens in Mississippi
Yeah.
is what's going to happen. If Mississippi solves the problem, everybody's
It'll
going to solve the
reverberate
problem.
everywhere.
If it get worse in Mississippi,
I believe that. I
it's going to get worse everywhere.
We're going to take a break and come back because I truly do believe that. This is the linchpin. This is the epicenter.
I'm going
of
to
it
get
all.
off my soapbox.
And you're going to get off the soapbox? No, I like you on the soapbox.
Just
We got
answer
two
your-
more points.
Just answer your question.
And we're going to come back and conclude our conversation with Mr. James Meredith. This is the third one coming up, right? Okay, so this is it. So this is the last 8 minutes. And so we're going to get on 2 more points, God's plan, and then every church should keep a record. But you've already talked about that a lot.
No,
So-
God's plan is big.
I mean, the church part, the point number 5. So, all right.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back. I am having fun here talking to Mr. James Meredith. He's such a colorful man. Just beautiful. And we left off with point number 4, and that's God's plan. Every black church in Mississippi should take responsibility for each child born within 2 miles of every church. You touched on that a little earlier.
And that's really why I'm here
Yeah.
in Washington County today. And I have to say that Miss Erie Stuckett, I'm bad on everything, from the Revel United Methodist Church
Okay.
is really the reason I'm here.
In the Delta. Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And for the first time, I've been promoting this message for a number of years. But tonight, the first time I'm going to ask a church to do this God's plan.
Wow.
And
So you're going to challenge them to be the first church.
for the first
Yeah.
time.
Right.
And it's no accident. Willie Richardson and I were classmates at Jackson State. And to my knowledge, he's the best known athlete ever come out of Greenville, Washington County. But if one church would start this program of taking responsibility for every child within 2 miles of the church, and it ain't that difficult. Since this is the beginning, we should start with all 5-year-olds and younger and start keeping that record.
Yeah.
It's no great, and particularly in the Mississippi Delta.
And this is your point 5, is that each church should keep a record of every child from birth to 21 years old.
Right, but that's just an afterthought. The main thing is taking responsibility for every child born. And I can say this, the main thing, the biggest loss that the black race had, we're losing all of our extra natural capacity people. I mean, human beings are like chickens. If you put 10 chicks in a coop, before they can do anything, they establish a peck order. In other words, some are just a little bit tougher, a little bit smarter than all the others. Now, human beings are the same way. And any race that loses the majority of its talented will never compete in the world. And that's what we are doing now. We're losing all of our most talented people because nobody's following them. Don't you understand? By 6 months, anybody that's paying attention to a child can tell whether that child is extra bright, average, or just a regular person. I mean, they are, and the real thing now, we're losing our talented. But if a 65-year-old woman see a 6-month-old baby and say that baby got ability, she'll make sure that he don't go to school not knowing his ABC.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
And she don't ever have to even speak to the child. She know how to get it done.
Right.
I mean, and that's what has to happen.
I love that. You know, I love the fact that you have centered on the black woman as the anchor, as the backbone, because it, you know, if mama is paying attention.
Let's talk about the black man.
Talk about the black woman. I don't even know if we have enough time to get into that.
Next to the childbearing age black woman,
Yeah.
he's the most overburdened person in the black community. If he's a solid citizen, if he's a good church leader, they are busier than the woman with children who trying to work 3 jobs.
Or should be.
You understand?
Should be.
Now, I mean, so,
Yeah.
but when you go to a big church on Sunday, the deacons usually sit on the left. The deaconesses, they call them different names, sit on the right. It's always less than a bench of the deacons, but 3 or 4, sometimes 5 benches of the women in white and the big white hats.
Exactly.
Now, those people have the time to do whatever they commit to do. And that's where our great loss is, with that Christian knowledge that they're not using.
Not bringing it back and committing themselves to the community, you're saying. Not implementing those skills in the community.
You saying that, that's a cliche. I promise God I wasn't going to use none of them.
Okay. That's right. We're going to stay positive. And so the terms that you have selected and the interpretation, is it all in this book?
Oh, yes.
It's in this book. And how is it that people can get this? Is it online or where? How
I'm
can people
sure,
order
yeah,
this book?
I imagine so. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere?
But I carry them in the back of my car.
Yeah. So look, I know we could just simply Google you and find the link to this and make the order that way. And is there any, I mean, you know what I really want to know is whether or not there is ever going to be a movie about Mr. James Meredith.
Well, I would be surprised if it happened in my day. I mean, you understand, James Meredith used to be a bad dude, and he still is.
And he's still, don't leave me hanging. He still is.
And most people are scared of a bad dude.
I love him. I think you're wonderful, and I have enjoyed you here today on this show and on this program, and I invite you to come back to this table anytime you come to the Delta. Anytime I hear you in the Delta, I'm looking you up, I'm calling you, and I'm going to say, Mr. Meredith, please, come on, Delta Renaissance, give us an update. Let us know how things are going. And it is with that that I thank you, sir, deeply.
You don't know how nice I've been to you.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And thank you all for being with us on this 2-part series. See you next week. Oh, yeah, man.